Well, welcome back to Thought for the Day. It seems a while since we did one. I guess there were a couple last week, but maybe I missed hearing Terry's. He had a week off for Holy Week and for a number of other things he had to do last week. But it was good to hear him yesterday. And he talked about vulnerability, and it made me think that's a very interesting topic, and maybe think I wanted just to continue really to think a little bit about what it means to be vulnerable. And the question that really bounced around my mind was, why do we fear it so much? Why are we afraid to let others see deep inside us? Why are we afraid of being vulnerable? What is it? What is it that we think might happen? And I realised it probably starts with a fear of what others will think of us. Well, if I tell him I struggle with with concentrating and working, I get distracted by this, that, and the other. They won't. I won't tell that person. They won't think so well of me. They'll disapprove of me. They just won't. And maybe it leads on in a subtle way to worrying what they'll say about us. If I tell him that, he might tell somebody else, and then what will they do, and what will they think? And it leads on, I suppose, into what are they going to do to us? Maybe if he knew that about me, he'd ignore me. He'd stop being my friend. Maybe as a vicar, I fear that people, if they find things out about me, will stop coming to church. They'll go somewhere else, or they'll stop giving to church, or stop serving in church, or all sorts of things which will make life more difficult. And so maybe need to be careful what people see of me. I need to present the right image, the right external impression. Somewhere in the canons of the Church of England, I think it's said that clergy are supposed to dress in a way that's fitting to a man of the cloth. And I'm thinking, am I really being asked by the rules of the Church of England to present an outward impression? Now, clearly I don't want to bring the church into disrepute by dressing inappropriately, but is it really what's on the outside? Does it really matter so much what people think of me? Well, maybe what matters more is what I actually am, rather than what people think. That's another topic. We'll go to that another day. But I wonder if, at heart, though it isn't a fear of what others will do or say or think, we do struggle with fear of man, fear of others, fear of concern about impressions. But I wonder if the real issue with being vulnerable is that we're afraid of what we will have to think about and face ourselves. That if we're vulnerable about one part of our life with someone, even with the Lord, God will ask, or that person will ask, about some other aspect that we really don't want to think about. It's not really about others. It's about a fear inside ourselves of facing up to aspects of our own life. And realise that one of the ways in which I think we protect ourselves from being the vulnerable is not by not saying things, but by saying things. We talk and talk and talk and talk about things which will distract people, distract our friend, distract the person we're talking to from the real truth about ourselves. We talk endlessly about our physical ailments, so that we don't have to talk about our mental struggles. We talk about what other people do to us and complain about them, so that we don't have to talk or think about what we've done the other way around. And so I've wondered one way in which I think we could be more vulnerable is not by necessarily by setting out to share those things, to say things, but simply by stopping talking. By being in a conversation, you say something, and then let the other person ask you. Don't keep talking so that they can never get a word in edgeways. Maybe ask them yourself, or what do you think? What do you think about me? What do you really think about me? As I thought about that whole business of asking questions, I realised quite how vulnerable Jesus made himself, quite how vulnerable he was. He spoke the truth even when it would get him into trouble. He didn't worry about what people would do to him. He spoke a truth that he knew would ultimately lead to people nailing him to a cross. He spoke hard truths that he knew would drive people away, that would lose friends, but things that they needed to hear. He welcomed people with bad reputation without a concern about what it meant for his own reputation. He stood up for the weak, thinking of the woman caught in adultery, in the face of strong, the religious leaders, those with power and influence over his world and his status. And at the end, of course, he didn't defend himself. They brought him before the religious court. They brought accusations, and he didn't say, "No, I need to tell you about this, and this." He just let them say what they said. He knew what they were saying would go, and yet he didn't want to drown it out with his own words. Before Pilate, he didn't even answer the simple questions. And I think at the heart of his willingness to make himself vulnerable was that he knew who he was. He knew that he had a relationship with the Father that nothing anyone else could say would break. He knew that even that relationship would be strained by what happened on the cross. But he knew who he was. He knew his own identity. And I think maybe in that is how we can start to learn to be vulnerable, and so experience that real sense of community that Terry was talking about yesterday. The wonderful truth of that song, "I am who you say I am." If we can know that we are truly loved by a God who loved us enough even to die for us, then we needn't fear what others will think or what they'll say or even what they'll do to us. But we can be ourselves and draw close to others and draw close to God as we open our hearts. We pour out our hearts to God in prayer, and we start to open ourselves, expose ourselves to others in ways that will give us a real sense of deep fellowship, friendship, a real sense, as Terry was saying yesterday, of knowing and being known. And that's a place of real freedom and joy. So thanks for listening today. I'll be back on Friday, and Terry on Thursday, and I guess Derek tomorrow. So God bless you all. Thanks.